status, you were too careless. Knew that meat and pancakes. Spend a minute, streaming up Paris, fill up the roadside. Hands cast, this is mine. I should've thought twice about the marriage. Sick of berries in the crowds. You know that one that he once trashed. Now you get darkness in your head and in your heart. It's like you thought you two were never gonna fall apart. It's been a rough few weeks and there'll be more, there'll be more, yeah. Get the key to the car, cause you wouldn't know. Then you drive through the streets like a criminal. Say the peace, now you're off, it's a miracle. But you turn it about when you need it. Go to sleep with the thought, that's the pinnacle. Go so hard that you sleep from the mountain top. Say the peace, you went off, it's a miracle. But you turn it about when you need it. That you need to taste, give your feet a break. It's a big good play that you know me make. Hope you feel okay at the end. I can tell you don't wanna be in this hell. You just can't see a way out. Wondering if you're too late, too late. Get the key to the car, cause you wouldn't know. Then you drive through the streets like a criminal. You turn it around when you need it. Go to sleep with the thought, that's the pinnacle. Not so hard that you sleep from the mountain top. Say the peace, you went off, it's a miracle. But you turn it around when you need it.
Hello, hello. It is Sunday. Welcome to What's the 411 with Jay, aka J is for Justice, temporarily, hopefully. We are going to do week 2 of the Vallow trial. So I spent my time going through and listening to the audio and picking out the parts that I found important to discuss and to listen to. So we're going to just get right into the, we're going to get into the audio, and we're starting out with Daddy Warlock. Yes, with David Warwick. Warlock, a.k.a. Hello, Mary P. Hey, Jenny W. And Mandy, Marie, Shell, and Angie. Thanks for coming in and moderating. They are your mod bosses today. Hello, Olive, Sophie. Who else do we have that is a lounger? Those are all our loungers. Non-loungers. Who do we have? Angel. Hello, Angel. And Georgie. Good morning, guys. Good morning. It's Sunday morning. Well, it's afternoon here, but it still feels like morning. I woke up with the worst headache of my life. Not of my life, but I woke up with a horrible headache. So I took some Motrin and I took a sinus pill and I got really tired. And I'm here though. I am still here. I'm on a pot of coffee too. So I'm a little jittery at the moment. So let's get into, hey, Maiden Nut. Let's get into this audio, shall we? All right, so we're starting out with Warwick. Let's take a listen. Oh, wait, let me fix this. Okay, here we go. And this is with the prosecution is questioning him right now.
Given information from the prosecution staff about that the court has said you cannot view you cannot listen to trial testimony, right?
Right.
And you were given instructions that you can't discuss people's trial testimony with them.
Right.
All right. Did there come a situation where you listened to someone's trial testimony?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that, please?
Yes. I came down with an illness about 2 weeks ago, and Melanie didn't want to be alone up here when she came to court, and I couldn't make it that day, so I was going to drive a couple of days later, but she ended up coming sooner. Anyway, so we stopped talking because she got here for 1 and 2. She was a little upset with me for not coming, and so I listened to 45 minutes of hers, but I was doing it to see how she was doing. And then 45 minutes into it, I remembered and I shut it off.
Okay.
So I was just concerned for her and just seeing how she was doing. And I didn't have my presence of mind because I was playing Aquaman. Frankly, I was breathing water and it's just lost my presence of mind.
All right, I'm already stopping. I'm going to stop probably a lot with David Warwick because he lies a lot. I'm just going to call him Sir Lie a lot. And if you look on the screen at the picture, that is him and Melanie's wedding photo. She got married in a black dress. But look at the amount of weight this man has lost. The picture on the right is of Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing in 2020. This is David Warwick on the left now. And he's talking about how sick he was and he was breathing water and he was so ill. He just got antibiotics 2 days ago, is what he says. He was quite frankly Aquaman. I'm going to rewind that part. So he's being questioned because he watched YouTube for what he says is 45 minutes just to see how his wife was doing on the stand. Because he was swimming underwater, he could not be there for her emotionally. So this guy listened to 45 minutes of her testimony on YouTube and then was like, oh my God, I'm not supposed to be doing this.
And I didn't have my presence of mind because I was playing Aquaman. Frankly, I was breathing water and it's just lost my presence of mind.
Okay. Because you've been sick and you're on medication.
I just got on antibiotics 2 days ago just so that I can come because I was not getting better.
Okay. So you understand that you were instructed not to do that, right?
Yes, and that's why I shut it off. I remembered, I listened to the first 45 minutes, and then I remembered and I just shut it off.
Okay. Now, had you previously talked about this situation with your wife?
No, we haven't talked anything about the case. She lives in Arizona. I live in Utah.
Okay.
We have a distant relationship right now.
You have a distant relationship right now? You guys have never lived together. And you've been a couple since what you say is 2019.
You previously talked about this situation with your wife?
No, we haven't talked anything about the case. She lives in Arizona. I live in Utah.
Okay.
We have a distant relationship right now due to family needs. And so I knew she needed some time, so I just left her alone.
Okay.
And
is anything you listened to, did it affect what you're going to say in this trial at all?
No,
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Did anything you heard from her testimony, anything the way she was treated, anything about that going to affect your ability to be truthful and candid in questioning?
no,
Any way it's going to affect what you have to say to this jury?
Oh,
Not
of
at
course
all.
not.
At this point, the state has nothing further, Your Honor.
Like, of course he's going to say that. Now, listen to the cross. This is where it gets good. This is Archibald. Mr. Archibald.
Your wife's testimony, what did you two talk about?
we didn't talk it about at all. We didn't talk at all.
You haven't talked to your wife since last week?
Nope,
And that's normal for you two?
nope.
So, where is she right now?
She's at home working in Chandler, Arizona.
And how would you know that if you haven't talked to her?
It's because that's where she lives, and I know she works.
So
And
how
she took a week off to come, and she needed to go back. She couldn't take any more time.
So how do you know that she's not still here in Boise if you haven't talked to her?
Well, I got a text from her saying that she was done and she was going home.
Okay.
But we didn't talk. We didn't talk anything about the case.
All right.
She just told me that she's going home,
And so what did you learn from her testimony in the 45 minutes that you listened to it?
nothing. I'll be honest with you, I was so sick. I was listening to her tones and how she was feeling, and there's nothing that stuck out to me at all.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Can you guys hear the sound bites? Because to me, they're really quiet. I just wanted to see if you guys could hear them.
So you were listening for her tone of voice rather than what she actually said?
Yes,
And so how was her tone of voice?
she seems somber.
Okay. And so that's what you did you listen to the direct questions or the cross-examined questions?
No, nothing on cross-examination. It was all the first 45 minutes. Whatever the first 45 minutes was about.
And where would you have accessed that information?
YouTube.
So what other articles did you pull up on YouTube?
They were just a couple relating to Melanie. And then when the one had the court, and so that's where I listened to the 45 minutes, and then that's when I recalled and shut it off.
And who posted that on YouTube?
Who was it,
I
David?
remember which one it was.
Come on.
It was either Hidden Crime or something like that, or East Idaho News. I don't remember. I remember seeing headings,
Okay.
but they're right next to each other, and I'm not sure which one I.
And so what was the heading that you clicked on?
Melanie Bibb testifies in court, something like that.
And did you have to fast forward through other information to get to Melanie's testimony?
No, it was just hers.
And did you read the comments about the article?
No,
Right.
Do you get was this on your laptop or your cell phone?
People are being mean to me on social media, David Warlock. Do you think he didn't read comments about his wife? Oh, no, he was too busy swallowing water. That's right.
You get was this on your laptop or your cell phone?
cell phone.
And did you download it?
No,
You just played it on YouTube?
yes.
And did you do that have you done that in the past with other articles about this case?
In the past, yeah, when I have in the past.
Okay.
But, you know,
Okay, this is interesting to listen to. So he was asked, did you play any other articles pertaining to this case? I don't know why he's calling it articles, but he's videos, articles, whatever. And he's like, yeah, in the past. So he's not talking about that day when he watched the 45 minutes, but watch how it's spun in court. He's clearly saying, oh yeah, I did before this. But listen how it's spun. It was confusing. And I listened to this audio and I picture being a juror. And I don't know what you guys think, but we're going on week 2. And I feel like every witness that the prosecution has brought up, they don't really explain who they are and how they fit into the puzzle. It's weird. Like they just bring these guys on and start asking them questions about weird shit like portals and all this stuff. And it's like, where do you start as a juror with this mess? I feel like they need to tell more of a story because right now, 2 weeks in, I'm really confused as to what they're saying Lori's part in this is. 2 weeks in, I'm not really getting anything other than she lied about the whereabouts of JJ to the Woodcocks, which, by the way, we have one more perverted name in this case, and it's Prosecutor Wood. How did I forget about Prosecutor Wood? So we have Wood, and then we have Cox, and then we have Woodcock. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And then we have Archibald. And what's the other one? I know I'm missing one. You guys will think of it.
oh,
Do you get the, was this on your laptop or your cell phone?
cell phone.
And I fully believe that all these weirdos that are the prosecution's witnesses are testifying under immunity because I think they all knew. And you're going to hear this guy lie through his teeth. He going to lie right through his teeth.
And did you download it?
No.
You just played it on YouTube?
Yes.
And did you do that with, have you done that in the past with other articles about this case?
In the past, yeah, when I have in the past.
Okay, when?
But, you know, that was like a couple of years ago when we
couple
were
years ago.
dealing with stuff then.
Since you received your subpoena in this case, how many articles have you clicked on?
How many articles?
Yeah.
There was 2 on Melanie, and then there was one on Zulema and Alex back when they got married.
Okay. And those would have been articles posted by who? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I was just laying in bed or sitting in a rocker. Actually, I couldn't lay down.
Okay, wait. He just said it was a couple years ago. But now he's going back to his illness that was 2 days ago. He just got antibiotics for. If I'm a jury, I'm not listening to this guy. I'm like, this dude's freaking lying. I would be shutting him out immediately. And maybe that's what the prosecution wants. I don't know. I mean, these are the prosecution's witnesses and they're lying. Oh, I was laying down because I was choking on water. Oh, no, I was sitting up in a chair so I could breathe. But then he just said this was a couple years ago. I certainly hope the jurors are picking up on these inconsistencies. But what does this mean for Lori Vallow? This is good for Lori Vallow because these people are proving themselves to be nothing but liars. Guys, I don't have a good feeling about this.
I'm not supposed to be doing this, and I shut it off. And I didn't pick it up again after that.
And the other articles that you accessed Was that also on YouTube or some other format?
They were
Objection, vague. If we could get a time frame of when he's saying he accessed those other articles.
Okay, see, now here's Rachel Smith, the prosecutor they brought in from Missouri. And she's like, okay, can we clarify this timeline? Because my witness is lying. And the jurors are going to know he's lying. So can we clarify this?
Received some other, access some other articles, right? Did you remember?
Yeah, they were all that same time frame, that same day.
That same day! He just said it was years ago. Did you hear him? It was that same day. He was looking up other shiz. He's a liar.
Oh, the same day that you listened to Melanie's?
Yes, I was just...
You accessed other articles?
I was checking on my wife, just trying to find things on her. And then when I saw the court, I listened to that one.
Bullshit.
And then while she was testifying, that's when the consciousness set in and said, you're not supposed to be doing this. And
He doesn't have a conscience. And you're going to find out why, because he knew that JJ was gone. And you're going to find more lies coming up.
I remember the order.
And so since you received your subpoena, have you accessed other articles about this case?
No.
If I hear him swallow one more time, I'm going to puke.
Because you're a liar. Excuse me.
And he's
And she got your, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wait, hold
Okay.
up. So this is back on the redirect. Never mind.
Saw the court, I listened to that one. And then while she was testifying, that's when the consciousness set in and said, you're not supposed to be doing this. And I remembered the order.
And so since you received your subpoena, have you accessed other articles about this case?
No.
Oh, he's acting all sick, too.
Once you got your, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So once you got your subpoena, and once the trial started, what have you looked at or listened to about the trial?
Nothing.
Melanie, and then that one about Zulema and Alex.
About the
when they got
trial,
together.
dude.
Okay. So when you say an article about Zulema and Alex, was it about Zulema's testimony at
No.
trial?
No.
Okay. And when you say when Zulema and Alex, was an article referencing their marriage in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did that article have anything to do with testimony in this courtroom?
No.
Okay. Did it have anything to do with the proceedings before Judge Boyce against Lori Vallow?
No.
Okay. So in terms of what you've listened to about what has gone on from the witness stand in this case, what have you listened to about the trial testimony in this case?
Trial testimony?
Yes, sir.
Melanie. 45 minutes of Melanie, that's it.
Okay. Did you read any articles about trial testimony?
No.
Okay. So I was just a little confused on cross-examination.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
we all were.
anything that you've listened to with regard to trial testimony affect or have any impact on your testimony before this court?
No.
Okay. Is there anything that you've read about the proceedings before the judge that is going to affect your testimony in the courtroom?
No.
Okay. And when you say back when you said to Mr. Archibald that you had looked at some stuff back when we were going through all this, you and now your wife have been witnesses on this case since the case started in 2020 and 2021, right?
Yes.
Some of your first interviews were in 2020, right?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, you've given several interviews to law enforcement.
Yes.
Okay. And those interviews have been done both recording and with police reports, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you've also testified in court in public at a preliminary hearing,
Yes.
and you've testified under oath before a grand jury.
Yes.
Okay. Did anything you heard about the first 45 minutes of your wife's testimony in any way change what you've testified to 2 or 3 times?
No.
Did anything that you heard from your wife's testimony for that first 45 minutes change anything you've told?
His word means nothing.
All right. The state has nothing further.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Even on any other things. There's countless other remedies short of the very extreme remedy.
Okay, so this is the argument where the defense was like, we don't even want his testimony included because he was reading and watching YouTube. So this is their arguments broken down kind of in a nutshell.
Rule of Evidence 615. The reason that we have this rule is exactly for this predicament. He's accessing information on the internet, on YouTube. He knows he's not supposed to. His motivation for it is really irrelevant. He purposefully accessed it, and he purposefully listened to it. And he not only did that, but accessed another article regarding other people who have testified in this case. So I can understand the state saying no harm, no foul, but there's a rule, and there's a reason we have a rule, and it's to protect the integrity of the court. So I ask that he be excluded.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Archibald. While the court's reviewed this situation, I've carefully considered the testimony that's been provided through the questioning of the witness. The court would note that I, sua sponte, issued an order for exclusion of witnesses in this case before trial started.
Put a 1 in chat if you think that David Warwick should be excluded, even though he came forth and was honest before his testimony. Put a 1 if you think he should be excluded. Put a 2 if you think his testimony should remain, and leave it up to the jury.
Understand the state saying no harm, no foul, but there's a rule, and there's a reason we have a rule, and it's to protect the integrity of the court. So I ask that he be excluded.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Archibald. While the court's reviewed this situation, I've carefully considered the testimony that's been provided through the questioning of the witness. The court would note that I, sua sponte, issued an order for exclusion of witnesses in this case.
So basically,
trial started.
He allows him because he came forth, if you listen. I think he should have been out too. I don't think it's fair, but the judge lets it through. Let's listen to the rest.
Of the rule talks about, first of all, it is correct that it is within the trial court's discretion to determine the nature of any sanction that may be imposed. That also cites the State versus Christensen case, 100 Idaho 631. In the Danson case, they talk about 4 potential sanctions that could be considered, and number 1 would be citing the witness for contempt. So Mr. Warwick could be held in contempt of court for willfully disobeying a court order. Number 2,
he can get his antibiotics in jail.
Witness's non-compliance in order to reflect on his credibility. Number 3 is what the defense has requested, refusing to let the witness testify. Number 4 would not really apply here, which would be striking the witness testimony. We don't get to number 4 because the state voluntarily disclosed this to the court before the witness was called. The witness voluntarily disclosed the conduct to the state before the witness was called as well. So I have to look, I think, at the level of both conduct and whether or not this is going to...
Oh, shit. Hold on. Ooh, that got loud. So he allows it because he says they didn't get to number 4, which would be striking his testimony and striking the witness because the prosecution came forth. Mary, I'm getting more that it's, yes, not, I don't see them so much blaming Daybell as much as I'm getting the vibe, and if you stick around, you'll get the vibe too, that she's more so blaming Alex, I think.
Sunday the 22nd?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so this is David Warwick still on the stand. Hi, Mrs. Kurt.
All right. And so where did you do the podcast?
At Lori Ballow's kitchen.
Right at
Over
the island.
Island.
Oh, Lord.
And when you said we, who's we did the podcast?
See the picture on the screen? That's them sitting at Lori's island that night. That's Lori and Melanie the night I think that JJ died.
Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow.
Okay. So you're in Lori's kitchen in her home, right?
Yes.
On a Sunday evening.
Yes.
Was JJ there?
No.
Where was JJ?
Yeah, dead man
Alex
can't talk.
was babysitting him
Okay. And was he babysitting him in the apartment or somewhere else?
at his place, his apartment.
All right. Who told you that?
Lori. She
Lori.
just wanted to have an interruption so we could do the podcast, so she asked him to watch him.
Okay. And did you see JJ again that evening?
Yes, about 10:30, I believe it was 10:30 at night, I heard the front door open, which was to my back. I turned around and I saw Alex carrying JJ, and JJ was asleep and his head was on his shoulder.
And Alex carried him in the house?
Yes.
Did you see where Alex went?
He took him upstairs
Okay.
and put him in bed.
All right. Do you remember what JJ was wearing?
Seemed like it was shorts and a T-shirt, but I can't remember the colors. I almost want to say it was the camouflage shorts, if I remember right. But
So if this is true, which I can't decipher his truth from his fiction, but if JJ came back in his clothes and then he was found deceased in his pajamas, do you think that Alex went upstairs and had him put his jammies on before he laid him down for bed? Or do you think that JJ was deceased? How did JJ get from camo shorts to the pajamas when he was found deceased in the pajamas? What do you think? But I can't really trust what this dude's saying because he's a liar.
You were staying there.
in Lori's room,
Okay. And what room were you in?
I was in JJ's room.
Okay. So did you spend that night there as well?
Yes.
All right. Did anything happen in the night?
Yeah, the early
Oh, this is where it gets good. This is where we find out that Melanie and Warwick tell two different stories.
So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
So did Melanie come try to help you as you were waking up from that nightmare?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm listening to this direct questioning, and I'm like, they said that they were sleeping in separate rooms, right? Because remember, they weren't married, so they couldn't sleep in the same room. And Melanie testified that she was in Tylee's room, I believe, and that Warlock was in JJ's room. Do I have that right, or is it the opposite? Do you guys remember if Melanie said she was in Tylee's? I think she said that she stayed in Tylee's room and that this dude stayed in JJ's room. And I believe he testified to that as well. But now, listen to this.
How did that happen? Let me do it this way. How did Melanie try to help you?
She had heard me talking in my sleep.
And I was like, how did she hear him if they're in separate bedrooms? Those walls must be really thin.
Kind of, I guess I was screaming out or calling out.
Okay.
And so she kind of helped wake me up.
Okay. And then what happened after she helped wake you up?
She said, I'm going to go get Lori, see if we can get Chad over here to give you a blessing.
Wait, what? Okay. He wakes up in the middle of the night from a nightmare. They've testified previously they were in separate rooms. So Melanie comes in and says, oh my God, you were having a nightmare, baby. Let me go get Lori and we're going to get Chad immediately. What kind of nightmare did he have? What's he having a nightmare about? What happened that was haunting David Warwick that night? That's what I want to know. What caused him to have the worst nightmare of this man's entire life that night, where Melanie Gibb thought that in the middle of the night it would be necessary to call Chad Daybell over for a blessing? Huh? It's going to get weirder. Wait for it.
She went and she went to go get Lori, but she came back because she said she couldn't get anybody.
She couldn't get anybody. Why not? Where was everybody that night? Did they know JJ was dead? Were they burying him? What were they doing?
How did that happen? Let me do it this way. How did Melanie try to help you?
She had heard me talking in my sleep, kind of, I guess I was screaming out or calling out.
Okay.
And so she kind of helped wake me up.
Okay. And then what happened after she helped wake you up?
She said, I'm going to go get Lori, see if we can get Chad over here to give you a blessing.
Okay.
So she went and she went to go get Lori, but she came back because she said she couldn't get anybody.
Okay. And so JJ was this in the middle of the night?
Yes, I would say it was in the early hours of the morning. I didn't have a clock there, but I know it was after midnight.
Okay. So as you were kind of waking up and coming back from the nightmare, did you see Lori Vallow at that time?
No.
Okay. Was Melanie able to get her to come help you guys?
No.
Okay.
Why doesn't she ask why? I mean, this is the prosecutor. Why couldn't you get Lori? Did she go knock on the door? Was the door locked? Were there cars there? What kind of testimony is this? Hey, CJ Show. CJ Show comes in when I'm all fired up. But it pisses me off that this guy is allowed to lie on the stand in front of a judge. I'm losing faith in the process of this trial.
Did you see JJ that morning?
I did not.
Okay. Did you make any inquiries about JJ?
Yes, I did. We went downstairs to say goodbye.
Okay, so where's the story? They're not giving us a story. That's my problem with the prosecution. They're supposed to lay out a story so that all of this makes sense and fits their narrative of Lori Vallow killing her kids. Are you seeing this? Because I'm not. I'm not seeing it. And now he's saying, okay, I had this night terror. Melanie went to go find Lori, couldn't find Lori, or couldn't get Lori, is their wording, couldn't get her. So then we skip to they're coming downstairs to leave. So they just stayed upstairs until it was time to walk out the door. And then they were like, where's JJ? What? What happened between the night terror and them leaving? There's a whole chunk missing.
And Lori was there, and she just said that JJ had an episode, and he climbed up on the cabinets, and then he climbed up on top of the fridge, and then he climbed up on top of the upper cabinet.
Okay, but when did JJ do all of this? Because we have JJ with Alex while they're doing the podcast till late. He said after midnight, they stopped the podcast. And he saw Alex bring JJ in at 10:30 in his shorts and his clothes. And then we're fast forwarding to the next morning. They're leaving and he says, where's JJ? And then Lori says, oh my God, he had this huge episode and like, da. When did he have this episode? When did Lori appear for JJ to have this episode? It doesn't make sense. So if I'm a juror, I'm sitting there going, huh? And if the prosecution isn't giving me the story of how this all played out with their witnesses, how am I supposed to determine whether this lady did this or not? I'm worried that she's going to walk. But we'll see. We still got lots of testimony ahead of us, but crazy.
and knocked over her picture of Christ. And she just said that he was out of, she couldn't control him.
So what did she say she did?
She called Alex and had Alex come and get him.
Okay. So when she said she had Alex take JJ, what did you do?
Well,
I feel like he's reversing this. I feel like maybe an episode happened with JJ, and then she called Alex, and Alex took him, and then Alex brought him back, and then something happened. And then he was nowhere to be found. I'm not thinking that he came in with his head on Alex's shoulder and then did this cabinet thing, because I think that Lori, based on what the babysitter is going to tell us, gave him medication to make him go to sleep. So he obviously, we'll get to that with the babysitter. Sorry, let's continue with Warwick. We're almost done with Warwick.
And she just said that JJ had an episode, and he climbed up on the cabinets, and then he climbed up on top of the fridge, and then he climbed up on top of the upper cabinets and knocked over her picture of Christ. And she just said that he was out of, she couldn't control him.
So what did she say she did?
She called Alex and had Alex come and get him.
Okay. So when she said she had Alex take JJ, what did you do?
Well, before she told me that Alex took JJ, I said, well, I'd like to see him because I wanted to make sure he was okay.
Okay. What? What? Did you hear him? Why would he want to make sure JJ was okay?
What?
He testified previously that JJ never interacted with him. That JJ acted like he wasn't even there, that he couldn't interact with JJ. Now, why the hell does this guy want to see JJ and make sure he's okay? Because he knew something.
Why?
Well, because I didn't see any signs of the cabinets. There was no damage on the cabinets. There was no scuffs on the stainless steel fridge. And I just was trying to understand what was going on here. But I also, if JJ did have a problem, I'd like to give him a blessing.
What? He'd like to give him a blessing?
What?
I thought he needed the blessing from Chad. Why is he giving blessings now? Oh, I think JJ probably did act out. JJ was going through a lot. It's not JJ's fault. JJ's dad was dead, gone. Grandparents cut off, gone. And he's introduced to this weirdo, Daybell, and his friends, who Tylee didn't like. So if Tylee didn't like him, JJ probably didn't like them, because he's going to follow Tylee. Tylee was his person. I think he certainly did act out. And you're going to hear from the babysitter how he acted out with her. And you're going to see that there's no way that kid calmed down that night and was just resting his head peacefully on Uncle Alex's shoulder. Yeah, he's autistic. You can't keep changing their environment. They're going to act out. He did act out. I don't think it's a lie. I think he did. And I think that Miss Lori couldn't handle it and didn't want to handle it, and Chad wanted nothing to do with it because he took the kid upstairs one time and came down with a scratch on his neck. And Warlock's going to tell us about that too. He knew something happened. Chad Daybell killed that boy. I'm telling you. When Chad Daybell came down with scratches, I think that's when he hurt that boy. And did you hear his...
Okay.
Did you hear his...
He was.
Let's go back a
What
little
did
bit.
she say?
She said she had Alex come and get him.
Listen to how he sighs. And I'm telling you that nightmare of his was his conscience. Exactly, Mandy.
Okay, one moment. If I
For
may,
us
Your
to
Honor.
sit here and say, I think that story's a lie is ridiculous. You have to listen to all the testimony because that most certainly did happen. And if there was a picture of Christ and it fell, that fell further into where Chad probably told Lori, he's the fucking devil. He doesn't want you to have a picture of Christ up. Yeah, she sold his therapy dog and moved him. She's horrible. She's a horrible person. But so is this dude. Deals with the devil is what the prosecution did here. And they're trying their damnedest to try to make these people seem legitimate, but they're not.
Yes.
It could,
Yeah, one moment. Yeah.
Oh, he's having a hard time. Why? Because you know David Warwick. Oh, I loathe this man. Yeah, she sold his therapy dog. There was an ad. Mm-hmm. She's a horrible person.
So, Mr. is it Warwick or Warwick?
It's Warlock.
Okay. How do you spell your last name?
Warlock.
Okay. I got it right. And you live in Pleasant Grove, Utah?
yes, sir.
And your wife, Melanie Gibb, lives where?
Chandler, Arizona.
Okay.
What a nice
and
marriage.
You two married in December of 2021?
Yes, sir.
So in this weekend of September 2019 that you've talked to us about, were you still married to someone else?
No.
Ooh, listen to this shit. Archibald bringing the facts. I never thought I'd like Archibald, but I like Archibald. Archibald is a good defender. He's doing a good job discrediting these witnesses. It's not that hard to discredit them, but...
You had been divorced by the time of September of 2019?
Yes.
When did you start to see Melanie before your divorce went through?
And you know what's awesome is that Lori's giving him the tea. Like, Lori's saying, yeah, well, fuck that bitch. She was screwing David while she was still married. Lori's giving him the tea. And David's denying this shit.
Objection relevance?
Yeah.
Overruled.
Rachel Smith doesn't like that. Rachel Smith and her Missouri-ness doesn't like that. Does anyone else find it odd that Rob Wood brought in a prosecutor because it was a death penalty case and he didn't have enough experience from Missouri? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we learn through Idaho 4 that they had these fabulous death penalty attorneys in Idaho? And didn't we hear that Ann Taylor's one of the best? Why wasn't Ann Taylor put on the case? Why do we have this woman from Missouri? Who is she? How'd they find her? Why her? Furthermore, why were Melanie P. and Lori Vallow in Missouri in October of 2019? I don't know. Who knows?
We were seeing each other at events.
Okay. So you were separated and then started to see Melanie.
Yeah, I was in the divorce process, and
Oh, see, he lied again. Were you married to anyone else? He said no. Yes, he was. Because now he's saying I was in the process. This dude does nothing but lie.
we were seeing each other at events.
Okay. So you were separated and then started to see Melanie.
Yeah, I was in the divorce process, and so I had a Downs boy that I was taking care of, and
Wait, what?
And,
He has a Downs boy he was taking care of? Huh? Didn't Melanie Gibb testify that she has an autistic son? And he has a Downs boy he's taking care of? He doesn't say his son. Whose boy? Why does this dude have a random boy? Who is it? Weird.
Melanie really hit it off with him at a camp, and so I just My divorce didn't final as fast as I had hoped it would.
Melanie hit it off with the Downs boy he's taking care of at a camp? What? Does any of this make... If I'm a juror, I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? The prosecutor doesn't even tell the story. Like, literally, if she was telling the story, I didn't cut it out. I listened to all of this audio, and there's no backstory. They just go right into this. If you're a juror, are you understanding and following? Put a 1 if yes. Put a 2 if no.
Anyone?
Yes, sir.
So in this weekend of September 2019 that you've talked to us about, were you still married to someone else?
No.
Was Melanie Gibbs still married to someone else?
What's that?
Was Melanie Gibbs still married to someone else?
And you'll notice this dude's habit is to repeat the question or say, what? If before he answers, if it's something he's going to fucking lie about.
No.
Okay. Both of you had been divorced by the time of September of 2019?
Yes.
When did you start to see Melanie before your divorce went through?
Objection relevance?
Overruled.
Okay, Rachel.
We were seeing each other at events.
Okay. So you were separated and then started to see Melanie?
Yeah, I was
again.
in the divorce process, and so I had a Downs boy that I was taking care of, and Melanie really hit it off with him at a camp, and so my divorce didn't final as fast as I had hoped it would, but she was divorced.
Mr. Warwick, also I'll ask you to please wait until he's completely finished his question before you answer, just because it helps our court reporter keep the record.
I'm sorry, I thought I was still on the same answer. I
You're fine.
apologize.
Thank you.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a general contractor.
And have you also done podcasts on religious topics?
Yes.
And so that's how you and Melanie Gibb were interested in each other, because you had the same common interest in religious topics?
That would, yes.
And is that how you met Lori Vallow?
I met Lori through Melanie. I would say it was the same intent.
Okay. And that's how you met Chad Daybell as well?
Yes.
And that's how you met Alex Cox?
Yes.
And how would you describe Alex?
He was a fun-loving guy. He was very humorous, and he can be genuine and he can be lighthearted.
He could be genuine and he could be lighthearted. He didn't say he was. You guys, this guy's testimony right here is so important. So important. One maiden nut. What you just said reminds me of the 20th November press conference after Gaddy Schwartz asked his question. I don't remember what I said.
Genuine and he can be lighthearted.
And that's how you also met Zulema about the same time in late 2018 or 2019?
I met Zulema at Lori's the first time.
And so that was August of 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So let's stop there. Zulema, who ended up marrying Alex 2 weeks before he died. Who knew Zulema then? Because this dude's saying he met Zulema through Lori. So was Zulema a friend of Chad? How did Zulema even come in the picture? The prosecution has not painted this picture. When Zulema testified, they just testified to her being married to Alex, and what happened when Alex died, basically. And questions about his relationship with Lori. But where did Zulema come from? Because this dude's saying he met her at Lori's.
How did you learn that Lori and Alex moved from Arizona to Idaho.
Through Melanie.
And so this conference that you were going to in Rexburg, Idaho, was that, what kind of a conference did you say that was?
A Book of Mormon conference.
And who was that sponsored by?
Rod Meldrum.
So that wasn't part of your church, that was just a private conference?
Yeah, they were members of the church, and Rod was...
Rod.
It was his...
There's another name, Rod. Now we have a Rod. I have no idea what religion the jurors are. I don't think we know that. I don't know how we would know that. I don't think we can assume that everyone in this courtroom is LDS. But why did they bring a prosecutor in from Missouri? Is it because all the prosecutors in Idaho are LDS? I don't know. You said something to the effect about how, could you ask that question again, please? Is a giant tell the, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, when they repeat, they're not prepared and they have to think about their answer. To me, the truth flows. When you're telling the truth, you don't have to pause. Now, a cop may have to pause in their defense because they can't say certain things. So someone like Chief Fry, who's not used to being in the public eye and having the world watch him, I could see him pausing more because he doesn't want to screw up. So I can't really compare the two because this dude's testifying under oath in a court of law. You're comparing that to a cop giving a press conference when he's not able to give away all the information he knows, and he has to be careful about what he says. I hope that makes sense.
Meldrum.
So that wasn't part of your church, that was just a private conference?
Yeah, they were members of the church, and Rod was, it was his conference, and the people with preparing people were doing the filming for him.
And so Preparing a People, is that a group sponsored by your church?
No.
So who is it sponsored by? Just a bunch of people getting together?
They're just the private owners.
Private owners?
And when you say you get together to do podcasts, what does that mean?
When you sit down and discuss a topic or be interviewed.
And who's the designated audience for this podcast?
I think they're really trying to drive home the fact that they were practicing LDS members, but that there were specific members who were branching off of that church. And Mandy, I agree with you. There are millions of Mormons in this country. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you the facts. Right meow. Because we can't lump all Mormons in with these people. How many Mormons are in the U.S.? 6.7 million. 6.7 million Mormons in this country. And this is the first time we've had something to this magnitude. So I'm going to say right now, this does not reflect on LDS, regular LDS, or Mormons. This is Mormon religion people who branched off from their church and had different beliefs than their church. They went deeper with, that was their base. That was their base. Just like with Waco, David Koresh's cult, if you will, was based off Christianity. Theirs is based off the Book of Mormon. So they pervert the Book of Mormon, just like tons of Christians every day pervert the Bible. But I want to clarify that because I've also met Mormons in my life that are normal people that live normal lives that don't do things like this. These are weak people. These are weak people who want someone else to think for them. Yes, an evil cult that branches off religion. Yep. Okay, let's continue.
I'm just trying to think what their it was mainly to the saint for the Latter-day Saints.
And so have you ever made money on these podcasts?
No.
So the podcasts are for education then, not money?
Right.
And where would your podcast be downloaded to?
I actually looked up Rachel Smith, and she is not LDS. I already looked her up. She's not LDS. She was raised in Missouri. She always lived in Missouri. She's like, I can't remember her exact religion, but I looked. She's not.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. I understand it's cross, but it's relevant.
But she also has taught prosecutors. She has a very extensive background. Very extensive.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. I understand it's cross, but it's relevance.
All right. I'll allow some more here, Mr. Archibald, but it needs to tie into direct, if you could.
How is it irrelevant?
Well, you told the prosecutor you were doing podcasts with preparing a people. That's what you told the prosecutor.
Now, their interviews, I don't know if podcast is the right name. Melanie and Lori called theirs podcast.
He plays
people,
dumb.
I think they just called theirs.
Feel the fire.
They just did weekly things where they would highlight topics. And then they would ask people to come in, and then they would just kind of go into that topic and, scripturally and experience with it.
And so your purpose in doing these podcasts was just to talk about your religious beliefs?
Yes, and to build faith. We did most of the ones I did with preparing the people. Well, sorry, I'm saying too much.
Wait, what?
No,
I'm saying too much. The judge stopped him? This guy gives away that he is such a protected witness. It makes me want to throw up. The judge stops him and he goes, "Oh, I'm saying too much." Chad Daybell has been excommunicated. I know that for a fact, but I don't know about the others. I have never looked into that, but I do know that Chad was.
And experience with it.
And so your purpose in doing these podcasts was just to talk about your religious beliefs?
Yes, and to build faith. We did most of the ones I did with preparing the people. Well, sorry, I'm saying too much.
No, it's not that you can't continue to answer. It was just avoid talking
Dumbass.
before Mr. Archibald's done, so we
Yeah,
don't have
but I just didn't know where to end it, so that's why I stopped. Sorry.
so we don't have two people talking at the same time.
I didn't know where to end it?
Do
What?
Okay.
Just tell the truth.
And is there a group called Preparing a People?
No.
What is Preparing a People?
They host conferences and they invite speakers to come in and vendors.
And have you been a speaker at some of these Preparing a People events?
Yes.
And the reason that you've been a speaker is because of what?
Because of my conversion to the faith, and because of the doctrines that I came to understand.
Okay. And
To build faith.
And so you've participated in these podcasts, or sometimes they're called firesides. Is that right?
Yes.
And you've given talks or speeches about the second coming of Jesus. Is that right?
About my dreams and visions.
So would you call yourself a visionary man?
Well, others have called me that. I don't call myself anything.
So on your speeches or your podcasts, have you shared your visions with other people?
Yes.
And you've
Okay, before we get to his visions, I want to just correct, Mary, you're wrong. Their religious beliefs, well, you're partially right. Their religious beliefs were asked of them, but it was done individually and it was not made public. So we don't know what they were asked. It was noted during jury selection, the religion of the jurors was not revealed, but it was asked. So that's where that stands.
Place in Washington, D.C.
Judge,
Yes.
I'm going to object at this point.
Okay, wait. What? Listen to this
Other
question.
people. It was crazy.
Judge, I'm
Yes.
going to object at this point. I fail to see the
Place in Washington, D.C.
They host conferences, and
Because of what?
because of my conversion to the faith, and because of the doctrines that I came to understand
Okay. And
to
so,
build faith.
and so you've participated in these podcasts, or sometimes they're called firesides. Is that right?
Yes.
And you've given talks or speeches about the second coming of Jesus. Is that right?
About my dreams and visions.
So would you call yourself a visionary man?
You know, others have called me that. I don't call myself anything.
A visionary man?
So on your speeches or your podcasts, have you shared your visions with other people?
Yes.
And you've had visions of
Sugar plums.
secret combinations taking place in Washington, D.C.
Judge,
Yes.
I'm going to object at
Okay,
this.
she objects because this dude's fucking crazy. She objected. Listen to the following that she didn't want to come out. Wait for it.
Place in Washington, D.C.
Judge, I'm
Yes.
going to object at this point. I fail to see the continued relevance of this.
Goes to his credibility, Your Honor. The state brought this up, not me.
It is, I think it's
You, Judge,
appropriate.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I haven't ruled yet.
I know, I apologize, Your Honor.
What was your comment? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask under Rule 16, comment 610 is that impugning somebody's religious beliefs or going beyond the scope of this trial is impermissible cross-examination.
Bless you.
Well, that door opened a long time ago in this case, I think, with the context of the state's
Well, they might be
evidence.
married, but we don't know.
I will keep that rule in mind. I appreciate you bringing that up. At this point, I do think we're still within the scope of permissible cross-examination given the direct
Thank you, Shell.
examination, so I'll overrule the objection.
Here we go. Answer it, David.
You've given talks about visions of secret combinations in Washington, D.C. Is that correct?
Yes.
You've given talks about visions of
Yourself a
secret
brother,
combinations in England and Saudi Arabia. Is that right?
Yes.
Wait for it.
You've given talks about evil entities in England, right?
You can't remember, David?
No, I'm not sure where that one's going.
Okay. You've seen visions of Russia and China invading the United States.
Yes.
You've seen visions of Russia and China attacking the United States military and defeating us in 3 days.
Yes.
The fuck?
You've seen visions of the United States being sacrificed for a one world government. Right?
I didn't.
Come on.
I don't know where that one came from.
Come on,
You've
David.
been, well, I didn't make this up.
Well, the context is what's being avoided. That's why it's different.
Mr. Archibald says, well, I didn't make this shit up, dude. I didn't pull this out of my ass.
away from the evidence of the case and direct. So if you could tie this in some way, if it does,
It's tied
if not, I'll
in.
sustain the objection.
It's tied in like a motherfucker.
You talked about having a vision while at Lori Vallow's home in September of 2019. You told that to the prosecutor, right?
Objection, misstates the evidence.
Oh, Rachel. Rachel.
Overruled. If the witness can answer, you
Answer
can
it,
correct.
David.
That's misstating evidence.
Answer it.
I had a nightmare.
So a nightmare and a vision are two different things.
Yeah.
So how do you define a nightmare versus a vision?
Well, it's like I was, whatever the nightmare was about,
Did you hear Rachel try to pipe in right there? She was ready to object again.
yeah.
So how do you define a nightmare versus a vision?
Well, it's like I was, whatever the nightmare was about, it was like I was living in it.
Ooh, you hear
And
that
a vision
shit?
is just pretend.
It was like I was living in it.
Nightmare are real.
No, not necessarily.
So can you further explain the difference between a vision and a nightmare?
Thank you,
one
Paper Chaser.
works and not the other one?
The vision is when you're being shown, when you're being shown things in the, when you're seeing the future. But you're not seeing yourself, somebody else is presenting it.
So David sees the future. What?
And so your visions come from who?
The ones I talked about came from the angels, under God.
And your nightmare comes from who?
It was very adversarial. It was consumed. It was a lot of fear and a lot of darkness, and there was no order to it.
Ooh, a lot of fear and darkness.
So the fear and darkness came from who?
Well, it was adversarial. I don't know who it came from, but
And when you say adversarial, are you talking about the devil?
I would say it was from that direction.
What? What?
Well, it was adversarial. I don't know who it came from, but
And when you say adversarial, are you talking about the devil?
I would say it was from that direction.
An angel of the devil?
Could have been.
You've had these visions and nightmares throughout your time that you knew Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, and Melanie Gibb. Is that right?
No, I just had that experience that night.
That night was it. No other experiences. I'm telling you, she's trying to pin this on Alex and Chadley. Chadley's chin.
Blessing from Chad Daybell. Is that right?
Well, Melanie was just said, I think you need to get a blessing. I'm going to go see if I can get Lori to get Chad. And so I disagreed. I was distraught.
I was
And
distraught.
what is a blessing?
It's when it's exercised under the direction of the priesthood to bless you with deliverance, comfort, or healing, or guidance.
So you wanted a blessing from Chad Daybell.
Well, Melanie just offered to get it. I was in a position where I wasn't all there.
What?
I was really struggling.
He's never all there. He's either sick or he's distraught or something is ailing this motherfucker. Excuse my language, but my God, this guy pisses me off.
A blessing from Chad Daybell do for you.
Oh, look at now his headset's acting up. All of a sudden his headset got turned all the way up when he's asked this question. Who's in control of the volume of this man's headset? Because he's hard of hearing. Who did that? Because they didn't want him to answer this, I don't think. Listen again.
Blessing from Chad Daybell do for you.
What would it do for you, David? Oh,
Give us
God.
just a moment.
Oh, just a moment. His headset's acting up. Yeah, Mr. Archibald's feeling the same way. He's like, ugh.
What would a blessing from Chad Daybell do for you?
What have we done?
Here's the what would have done?
Objection, speculation.
See, he asked the question again, and then she objects. It's like they have this planned. Like, you play dumb, and I'll object.
What would a blessing from Chad Daybell do for you?
What have we done?
Yeah.
Well,
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
Answer it, David.
Come
Come on.
I would have hoped for peace,
From Chad Daybell?
but it wasn't my idea. Melanie was just trying to get help.
It was all Melanie's fault. She needed
You and
help.
So
Melanie,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
You and Melanie were in the same room when this nightmare happened,
Yes,
and you were sleeping in JJ's room.
yes.
Hear this shit? Ah! Why? I thought they were in different rooms. There is the straight up lie.
And you were woken up by your nightmare,
Yes.
and then you woke up Melanie.
She woke me up because I was, she could tell that something was going on. So
And so you agreed.
maybe we woke each other up. I don't know.
And so you agreed to seek help from Chad Daybell.
Yes,
And did Chad Daybell come?
no.
No. Why not?
When
No one asks. No one says, why didn't Chad come? Where was Chad? Where was Lori? Why are they leaving all of these details out?
It was pretty minor.
Wait, hold on,
you didn't
hold on.
see the scuffle.
Hold on.
You didn't
I don't know.
This is where it
need
gets on Chad
to
right here.
seek help from Chad Daybell.
Yes,
And did Chad Daybell come?
no.
No, Mandy, he just said they were both sleeping in JJ's room. Listen again.
But it wasn't my idea. Melanie was just trying to get help.
And you and
So
Melanie.
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Listen right
You
here.
and Melanie were in the same room when this nightmare happened.
Yes,
See, they were both in the same room. She lied. He lied too, because earlier he said they were in separate rooms. And they never talked about, like, oh, did you wake up and then go in her room? Or did she wake up and come in your room?
And you were sleeping in JJ's room.
yes,
And you were woken up by your nightmare.
yes.
And then you woke up Melanie.
She woke me up because I was, she could tell that something was going on.
Something was
so
going on. What was
And
going
so
on,
you
David?
Agreed.
maybe we woke each other up. I don't know.
And so you agreed to seek help from Chad Daybell.
Yes,
Because you're a liar.
And did Chad Daybell come?
no.
When had you seen this scratch on Chad's neck from JJ?
Hear this?
He pointed it out, but it was pretty minor.
He pointed it out?
But you didn't see the scuffle, but Chad.
No, I didn't.
You hear his voice? Do you hear how he answered that? He saw the scratch on Daybell's neck. He wanted to see JJ to see if he was okay. He had a nightmare. He needed help. He was distraught. All of these things to me state he knows something really bad happened to that little boy. Hell no, they wouldn't be in 2 beds. JJ wouldn't have 2 beds. Why would JJ have 2 beds? And furthermore, they said that JJ was sleeping in a bed in the corner of Lori's room.
Told you that Tammy's, his wife's time was up, that he had a dream she would die. Did you believe that?
I wasn't certain to what to believe at that point.
See?
He was teaching.
Something happened, and this dude was like, holy shit. Wow.
Tell us what you understand that to be.
All I understand is during the time of the tribulation that God's going to have 144,000 that will cover the earth to gather his elect and to help gather his people and help deliver them from the trying circumstances.
See, this is their beliefs right here. No more, no less. This is what they believed. This is the 144,000. And they are gatherers. He's going to explain what that is.
And have you wanted to be part of the 144,000?
No, I mean, it would be an honor, but it's nothing I was seeking.
What? Okay, he didn't want to be a part of the 144,000. That's the only reason he talked to these assholes, is because they convinced him that he needed to be. And in order to be part of the 144,000, you have to gather others. You have to gather others. So think about this. When this trial is all said and done, these motherfuckers keep going. They keep going. Do they still believe like they did? Because this is a dangerous way to believe, obviously. And even if Chad Daybell is locked up for life, if these people believe that he is a prophet, they're not going to stop following him. It's just like Manson. Manson's followers didn't stop following him when he was in prison. I don't see anyone standing up for Chad Daybell at this point. But if he's in prison for the rest of his life, don't think he's not going to have followers that think this crazy shit too. They will. These people have children. It's scary.
1,000 that will cover the earth to gather his elect and to help gather his people and help deliver them from the trying circumstances.
And have you wanted to be part of the 144,000?
No, I mean, it would be an honor, but it's nothing I was seeking.
You're a liar, dude.
And I think you told the prosecutor that you didn't think Chad had the authority to gather.
No.
Who do you think has that authority?
The prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And who is that?
Changing his tune.
Well, now it's President Russell M. Nelson.
Okay. So that's where your disagreement with Chad Daybell was who had authority to do that.
Yes.
Had you ever heard of the Church of the Firstborn before?
I just see it in the scriptures, but.
Yeah, where in the scriptures?
Doctrine and Covenants.
And what's the Doctrine and Covenants?
It's a canonized scripture of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
So is the Church of the Firstborn is that in the Holy Bible?
It could be.
Is it in the New Testament or the Old Testament?
He doesn't know.
It could be.
He doesn't know because they don't go by that. But anyways.
Is it in the New Testament or the Old Testament?
It could be. I'm not recalling.
This is the church they were going to start. Or, I mean, it's not anything new. This Church of the Firstborn has been around for a long time. I looked it up. But, they wanted, that's, I think, what they were going to call themselves. Listen to what Archibald says.
And all this right now.
Is the Church of the Firstborn mentioned in the Book of Mormon?
I don't know.
And who is John the Beloved?
A close disciple of Jesus Christ.
So John the Beloved was told something about the Church of the Firstborn. Is that what you learned from Chad? Or how did those two concepts go together?
I just heard that that's where he had gotten his authority from.
That's where Chad had gotten his authority from?
Yes.
And these are the kinds of things that you talk about on your podcasts?
No.
What do you talk about on your podcast?
Mary P., the Watchtower is Jehovah's Witness, not LDS. LDS is not Jehovah's Witness.
Something about the Church of the Firstborn. Is that what you learned from Chad? Or how did those two concepts go together?
I just heard that that's where he had gotten his authority from.
That's where Chad had gotten his authority from?
Yes.
And these are the kinds of things that you talk about on your podcasts?
No.
What do you talk about on your podcast?
On the podcast, they go into topics like fasting, and then a lot of them were the conversion, coming where I came from, and the conversion stories, some experiences from the time I was converted up through my mission, serving in the LDS mission. And so, but they were in the context to build faith. They weren't in the context of seeking these things. They were experiences as a result of repentance and faith and service.
And so when you agreed to do a podcast with Chad and Lori and Melanie on Sunday night in Rexburg, Idaho, what was the topic of that podcast?
First off, it was just Melanie and Lori. Chad was not part of it.
Okay. And so what was the podcast with Melanie and Lori about?
Okay, so interesting that he says Chad was not part of the podcast. So that means that Chad's defense that he was there doing this podcast is not going to fly. Because this guy's saying no, he was not part of the podcast that night. So why was Chad there, and why did Chad get scratches on his neck from JJ that night? And why wasn't Chad available to give a blessing to David when David was distraught?
And endows you with greater faith.
And that's the time that you say you did not see JJ.
Yes.
And did you call the police?
No, I didn't. Did not.
Wow.
Right. You didn't have any reason to, right?
I didn't see any reason. Lori was one of the most sweetest, kindest, fun-loving. She was I really enjoyed her. She was a wonderful woman.
See, this right here makes me think these people still believe this horse shit. They still believe this horse shit. How can he say this? And he didn't call the police even when he found out that the nation was looking for them? He's completely testifying under immunity. Yeah, I had one Jehovah's Witness in my class growing up, and she couldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance, and she couldn't participate in holiday parties. That's just their religion, because they see those as pagan holidays, and they are. So whatever.
I didn't see.
And Mandy, my dad used to answer the door because he was Catholic, and he would argue with them, and my mom would get so mad because they'd keep coming back because they thought that they could convert him because they got him to converse with them.
Reason. Lori was one of the most sweetest, kindest, fun-loving. She was I really enjoyed her. She was a wonderful woman. This stuff kind of hit me that weekend, and I just wasn't. Anyway, I just didn't see it was like what they're teaching doesn't match what I see in their character. And so I kind of left a little confused and puzzled and trying to discern.
Well, their character was good, right?
Yeah, I saw goodness, yes.
And
I did.
He saw goodness when Chad came downstairs from being upstairs with little JJ, little 7-year-old JJ. He saw goodness when Chad came down with scratches after a quote-unquote scuffle with a 7-year-old. Holy. Oh my God, where'd my audio go? Say it ain't so.
Okay. Now, you
And these are the kinds of things that you talk about on your
evening,
Lost my spot, damn it.
Clean. There was just Melanie and Lori. Chad was not part of it.
Okay. And so what was the podcast with Melanie and Lori about?
I went too far.
Climbed the cabinets in the fridge and the
Okay, here we go.
Call the police.
No, I didn't. Did not.
All right. You didn't have any reason to, right?
I didn't see any reason. Lori was one of the most sweetest, kindest, fun-loving. She was a wonderful. I really enjoyed her. She was a wonderful woman. This stuff kind of hit me that weekend, and I wasn't. Anyway, I just didn't see it was like what they're teaching doesn't match what I see in their character. And so I kind of left a little confused and puzzled and trying to discern.
Well, their character was good, right?
Yeah, I saw goodness, yes.
And
I didn't see any reason to suspect.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Redirect.
All right, that'll conclude cross-examination. Any redirect by the state?
Yes, briefly, Your Honor.
She's going to try to clear this up. Keyword is try.
Defense counsel asked you about dreams and visions. I want to ask you about reality.
Okay.
The morning of the evening of September 22nd, who carried JJ up to bed?
Alex.
There we go. There's the blame on Alex, okay? There's number one.
JJ up to bed.
Alex.
Okay. And the morning of September 23rd, who told you where JJ was?
Lori Vallow.
And what did Lori Vallow say to you about what happened to JJ on the 23rd?
She said he was out of control and she couldn't control him, so she had Alex come and get him.
Okay. And when she said he was out of control, did she give you specific examples? Real examples of what she said out of control meant?
That's when she said that he climbed the cabinets in the fridge and the upper cabinet and pushed over her picture of Christ that sat on the top of the upper cabinets.
And did you see any evidence with your own eyes that any damage had occurred that would be consistent with JJ climbing the cabinets?
What kind of damage would you leave if a 7-year-old climbs on a cabinet? What is she talking about? Damage? He's 7. This is fucking ridiculous. The most ridiculous testimony.
The crown molding, that's the way it's fastened, it would have popped off if he would have gotten up there.
What? He's saying if 7-year-old JJ would have climbed up on the cabinets, the crown molding would have popped off, and because he's a general contractor, he knows.
Okay. And so when she said that, what did she say she did with JJ?
She just called Alex and just said that you need to come and get him. I can't handle him.
Okay. And then she said she sent JJ with Alex.
Yeah.
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. That'll conclude then the testimony of this witness. Is there any objection to him being released from the
God,
subpoena?
what a nightmare he is.
The state would ask that he is.
No objection.
All right. Mr. Warwick, that
Bye,
concludes
liar.
your testimony today. Then you can be escorted out of the courtroom by the bailiffs.
To visit them for dinner
Okay.
or to do laundry.
Because you're a liar.
That her daughter didn't like to babysit with.
Okay, this is the babysitter now. This girl, I'm going to give you a little backstory. She had an ad on care.com and she lived in Rexburg. She was going to college in Rexburg and she answered Lori Vallow's ad for a babysitter for JJ. And she's going to tell you about her experience over at Lori's apartment.
With Alex.
Yeah.
Nothing further.
All right. Thank you. That'll conclude then the testimony of this witness. Is there any objection to him being released from any subpoena?
Bye, bitch.
The state would ask that he is.
No objection.
All right. Mr. Warwick, that concludes your testimony today. Then you can be escorted out of the courtroom by the bailiffs.
To visit them for dinner or to do laundry. But that her daughter didn't like to babysit without being paid. And that's why she needed me to come and help.
Okay.
So Lori lied to this little girl and said, not little girl, she's in her 20s, but said that Tylee didn't like to babysit unless she got paid. So why not pay your daughter? Why are you paying care.com? You liar, Lori Vallow.
College. And that sometimes she would come to visit them for dinner or to do laundry. But that her daughter didn't like to babysit without being paid. And that's why she needed me to come and help.
Okay. Through your interview, did she hire you to watch JJ?
Yes, she did. We had discussed a time for me to come the next day.
Really quickly, I'm going to take you back for just 1 second. When you spoke with her about her daughter, did she say which school her daughter was attending?
She did not.
Okay. Did she say college?
From what I remember, yes.
Okay. So she hired you to watch JJ.
Yes.
Did you ever have a chance to watch JJ?
I did. The following day on the 19th, I went to their townhome after I had finished my school that day and watched him for a few hours while she had to go to the airport to pick up a friend.
Okay. Did she give you any special instructions for JJ that day?
Yeah, she did. She talked about kind of what to feed him, what things he likes to do for fun, that I could take him to go play at Gravity Factory, which is like a trampoline park, and that if she got home later, I could give him his medication that helps him fall asleep faster.
Okay. What do you remember about watching JJ that day?
I remember it went pretty well. He just played outside with the neighbor friends and kids for a while. I brought him in to feed him dinner, and then he went back out to play at their house. So I went back to her townhome and waited and kind of cleaned, and then I went to go pick him up, and JJ and his friend had gotten in some sort of dispute over not sharing toys, and so I had him come home. And when he came home, he was very upset and sad that his friend didn't want to play with him anymore.
Poor JJ.
He got pretty angry and threw the ottoman and threw a chair, and I tried to calm him down best I could, but eventually he ran upstairs and just kind of wanted to be alone and hide. So
Poor
I let
thing.
him stay upstairs.
See, this evil woman left an autistic child with someone he didn't know. And then he has a problem and has to come home, and he's, got this girl there that he doesn't even know. And you heard all these people that stayed the night there. He wouldn't even talk to the people that stayed the night there. And Lori's got this girl coming in. Oh, yeah, you can just take him to the trampoline place. She's going to have this girl take him out in public? not knowing how he will behave? What is wrong with this woman? And why couldn't he just get in the car and go to the airport with her to get her friend?
Threw like a chair, and I tried to calm him down best I could, but
poor girl.
Eventually he ran upstairs and just kind of wanted to be alone and hide. So I let him stay upstairs for a while and hoping that he would calm down, but he didn't.
He didn't.
Okay.
He didn't.
Did you have any other contact with Lori Vallow?
So do you really think that JJ was resting his head on Uncle Alex because he was so content and tired and comfortable? I don't think so.
Upstairs for a while and hoping that he would calm down, but he didn't.
Okay. Did you have any other contact with Lori Vallow that night?
I did. So when she came home, he was still pretty upset.
Poor kid.
And I kind of explained to her what had happened with the friend, and she calmed him down, and her brother was there and her friend was there now, and she had paid me in cash, and we didn't really talk much about another time to babysit just because of the situation that happened with JJ. So she paid me and I left.
So her brother was there and her friend. So she goes to pick up her friend at the airport, and now it's her brother and her friend. Why don't they ask what friend? Why do they leave that open-ended?
Gonna work full time, like that he would need nearly daily assistance and babysitting. So
Did you have any further communications with Lori?
I did. So a few days had passed after that, and I had texted her wondering when I could come work again. And she responded that JJ had gone to his grandparents for a month and that she was in Hawaii for a month, and that after that month had passed, I could message her again and talk about a time to come back and babysit.
So she said JJ was with his grandparents, and he would be for a month.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever try to contact Lori Vallow again?
I did. So that month had passed, and I reached out again, and she never communicated back with me again after that.
Okay. Did you ever see JJ Vallow after September 19th?
No, I did not.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state has no further questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wood.
Mr.
Cross-examination.
Wood.
So just briefly, to follow up, on September 18th, when you met Lori at her home, was JJ also there?
Yes, he was.
And so you were able to observe his demeanor and his personality.
Yes.
And then when she was talking to you about him, and she was planning on having you work for her long term. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And was there a schedule, like every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, a plan like that?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay. And so it was just that you'd be called frequently as the need arose.
Yes.
And because you were a student, your schedule was flexible.
Yes.
And so you agreed to be able to provide assistance as the need arose.
Yes, that's correct.
Was it daytime, evening that you had time available?
It just depended on when my classes were. I don't remember the specific times.
Okay. And so this, the time that you spent with Lori and JJ on September 18th, you were given a lot of information about JJ so you could take care of him long term for like the next several months or a year. Was there talk about that?
there wasn't specific talk about long term, like a year, but I was, expecting at least the next several months to be able to work.
And so you weren't planning on leaving town, you weren't graduating and leaving town right then that semester?
No, not for a couple years.
Okay. So with your talking with Lori, she was giving you information so that you could plan on how to take care of JJ long term.
Yes.
And with your knowledge of JJ's special needs, you agreed to that?
Yes, I did.
There was, Lori didn't give you any indication, did she, that, hey, I'm just hiring you for this week and then never again?
No, she didn't.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any redirect, Mr. Wood?
No, Your Honor, and this witness may be released from her
All
subpoena.
right, next witness is going to be a
Any objection to the
detective, I
witness being
believe.
released?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The state would call Josh Wilson.
I just don't know how jurors are getting a clear picture.
Spencer Ramel for the state.
We've got about, just to update you guys, 29 minutes of audio left, and then we're done.
Yeah, so
Tell us what you observed.
we were looking at basically the evidence at the residence. As I was saying, there was one bullet strike that landed in the baseboard.
Okay, so this is going back. Now, this is the detective testifying about Alex and Charles, about Charles being found dead.
In regards to training, before he could give that opinion.
How long?
Sustain the objection on those grounds for now.
How long were you a homicide detective?
I did 11 and a half years in homicide and 3 years in family crimes before that.
Have you responded out to gunshots before?
Yes, several.
Have you observed bodies that have been shot before?
Several.
Have you done trainings on bullet wounds, things of that nature?
I have. I'm currently assigned to the executive board of directors for the Arizona Homicide Investigators Association. Have been for 11 years. We conduct about 100 hours of training a year. So I have hundreds and hundreds of hours of training in homicide and related items.
And based on your training and experience, based on that mark in the floor, where did you believe Charles' body was when he was shot?
Yeah, my observations from where Charles was shot, especially when we rolled him and saw the strike underneath him, is the wound to his abdomen was what is called a short gunshot wound. So the wound to his abdomen traveled through his abdomen and out of his shoulder and was consistent with Charles being flat on the floor when that projectile exited his body out of his shoulder.
And was that consistent with what Alex Cox reported?
It was not.
So why didn't they arrest him?
Were you involved in transporting Lori Vallow back to the residence?
I was.
Did you make observations of Lori on the way back?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
I'll object, Your Honor. Relevance.
That's overruled.
It's relevant.
So Detective Inclin and I transported Tylee, Lori, and Alex back from the station to the residence while we were still processing the scene, so they could get a car and go somewhere else, or stay on scene outside of the scene, or stay at the residence outside of the scene. So Detective Inclin was driving. Tylee was in the front seat. We were in a minivan, so I was in the far back of the minivan, and Lori and Alex were sitting basically in the middle row. The ride back from the station was bizarre. To
Bizarre.
say the least. It was very lighthearted, very just conversationalist. It was like I said, was very different, bizarre.
So here we go, blaming Alex. This is where I think the focus goes on Alex.
Well, let me ask this. Did you continue as the case agent?
I did.
At some point, did you switch and you were no longer the case agent?
Yeah, once I was promoted to sergeant in June of 2020, I was no longer assigned to homicide, and it needed to stay with the homicide detective as I was going back to patrol. So Detective Duncan took over as case agent for me.
Is it normal to be promoted to a detective and then go down to sergeant and be a patrol officer? Doesn't that sound like a demotion to you? Sounds like a demotion to me. What do you guys think?
So, and that was based on your promotion?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a promotion?
And Detective Duncan.
You're a detective in homicide and then you go to road patrol? That's a promotion? Am I crazy here? I don't feel like that's a promotion. The heck?
At some point, did you, in your well, let me ask this. Did you continue as the case agent?
I did.
At some point, did you switch and you were no longer the case agent?
Yeah, once I was promoted to sergeant in June of 2020, I was no longer assigned to homicide, and it needed to stay with the homicide detective as I was going back to patrol. So Detective Duncan took over as case agent for me.
So, and that was based on your promotion?
Yes, ma'am.
And Detective Duncan had been involved from the initial part of the investigation?
He had since the day of the incident.
And prior to you being switched as the case agent, did you learn anything with regard to an insurance policy?
I did on
I'll
July.
object, Your Honor, based upon hearsay.
I'll sustain that.
And Your Honor, I would indicate it's not being offered for the truth of the matter, but for what was done next in the investigation.
Well, I guess the objection's being sustained because it was a question of did he learn anything, and I didn't see a foundation of how he personally would have had that information unless it was revealed through hearsay of another, was the basis of, I think, the objection and how I ruled.
Let me have just a moment.
Yes.
Yeah, she needs a moment, all right.
Say.
Overruled.
At some point, did you learn
It was not paid out to Lori.
This is me.
Did
this
you learn
is me
whether
skipping.
Company and Lori had tried to file a claim on that $1 million policy.
Did you learn whether or not that claim was paid out?
I later did, and it was not paid out to Lori.
Just one moment.
I don't have any questions.
All right, that'll conclude then the testimony. All right, thank you, Ms. Blake.
Sorry if it's skipping a lot.
Mr. Archibald, will you be conducting cross?
Your Honor, I've previously objected to this testimony.
Okay, so this is funny. This is Archibald. So he's like, do you have any questions for this witness, this detective that went from detective to road? Listen to Archibald.
All right, that'll conclude then the testimony of the witness.
Time they were in Hawaii?
No, they did not.
Okay. So after that week they were with you, where did they go?
Kauai Beach Resort.
Okay.
Wait, hold on.
And did you have
17th, I believe it was around or a couple months prior to this event, and the legal department was reviewing the forms at the time.
Do you look into whether or not anyone attempts to make a claim shortly after someone's deceased?
Yes.
Did someone attempt to make a claim?
Yeah, when I contacted the insurance company on
I'll
July...
object, Your Honor, to hearsay.
Overruled. You can continue to answer.
Thank you, sir. On July 17th, I believe it was on or around July 17th, I contacted the insurance company, and Lori had tried to file a claim on that $1 million policy.
Did you learn whether or not that claim was paid out?
I later did, and it was not paid out to Lori.
Just one moment.
I don't have any questions.
All right, that'll conclude then the testimony. All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Let's see, Mr. Archibald, will you be conducting cross?
Your Honor, I've previously objected to this testimony in its entirety, so I don't have any questions.
All right, that'll conclude then the testimony of the witness.
Time they were in Hawaii?
No, they did not.
Okay. So after that week they were with you, where did they go?
Kauai Beach Resort.
Okay. And
okay, now this is Lori Vallow's friend, April, testifying about their time in Hawaii.
So it was later in the month, and she had been joined by Melanie Gibb. And so Melanie Gibb and Lori and I went out several evenings. Once we went out for an afternoon lunch and then a couple evenings for dinner.
Okay. Where was Tylee at this time?
At this time, Tylee was, my understanding was she was back in Arizona working at her aunt's chiropractic clinic.
Okay.
What?
And was JJ now in Hawaii?
No.
Okay. Did you see JJ at all during the time the defendant was in Hawaii in February or March of 2019?
No.
Okay. And so you said you saw her a couple of more times with Melanie Gibb present.
Yes.
Okay. Can you think of, you mentioned a lunch. Where was the lunch?
We had lunch at a restaurant in Honolulu called Calypso.
Okay. And during that lunch, did the conversation of Charles come up?
Yes.
Or did the conversation turn to Charles?
Yes.
All right. And how was that conversation? What was that specifically about?
It was
Charles.
It was, I mean, a combination of things. There was, Charles had sent an email to Lori's family, kind of pleading for help. And she showed me the email and just, again, asked me not to respond to Charles if he reached out.
Okay. And was there another conversation about Charles and communications with him at one of the dinners you attended?
The conversation about Charles was more about now Melanie had joined the conversation and was kind of confirming what Lori was saying, that Charles wasn't
And I'll
Charles.
object to hearsay from Melanie Gibb.
Well, Your Honor, I'm not offering it for the truth of the matter story that Charles was in fact possessed by a demon. I'm offering it to show context to what the defendant said in relation.
So the objection is overruled.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, what did Melanie say?
Do you mind repeating the question just so I
Sure.
make sure I understand?
At the dinner that you attended, where you and Melanie Gibb and Lori were present, how did the conversation with Charles, or her relationship with Charles, come up?
The incident was brought up about Charles coming back from the airport where his car had been taken, his flight had been canceled, and just how angry he was about that taking place.
So when you say the incident, what does that mean?
So there was an incident where Charles had been on a business trip, and Lori had discovered evidence of him having an affair, and as a reaction or a retaliation, canceled his flight, canceled his credit card, and moved his truck from the airport parking lot, and just kind of how that all unfolded and his reaction to that.
Okay. And so did Lori Vallow tell you about that?
Yes.
Okay. Did Melanie Gibb corroborate that conversation?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, did Ms. Gibb indicate who helped Lori in this?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. So during this conversation at the dinner, did anything else come up about the Lori Vallow's relationship with Charles Vallow?
Melanie was just confirming what Lori had told me about Charles being possessed by a demon.
Okay. Now, during these various conversations, did the defendant ever talk to you about participating in the formation of the 144,000 who are supposed to shepherd in the second coming of Christ?
Yes, that was a conversation the first night that she stayed with me, when it was just she and Tylee.
Okay. And what did Lori Vallow say to you about that?
She said that she had been appointed leader of one of the 144,000, and that she was there to gather me.
And what did you understand gather you meant?
To join her.
Okay. And what did she say was going to be needed for you to do in order to join her in this group?
That I would need to be separated from my children.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Did she indicate why?
Basically that my children were raised, I'd fulfilled my role.
I'd fulfilled my role. Wait till you hear how old her kids are. And I don't think Charles cheated either. I think that was Lori's excuse for leaving him.
You are narcotic.
Okay, now I think...
And that I had the 144 lives, and that I had a...
What?
Basically that my children were raised, I'd fulfilled...
Hold on. I'm trying to get to the right part. Thank you, Angel.
So Lori was in Hawaii.
Okay, this is the cross-examination of April now. This is Archibald.
Lived there a year or two in 2016, 2017.
Correct.
And that's, you still live there.
Mm-hmm, I do.
And you two were friends and fellow church members.
Yes, sir.
And you say you had some kids. How old were they back then?
Well, now I'd have to do the math, but they're 17 and 18 now.
Okay.
She was done with them a few years ago, according to Lori.
Yeah. So maybe 10 and 12, around there.
Yes, sir.
So during this visit in February of 2019, you were getting caught up with your old friend Lori.
Yes, sir.
And had you noticed a change in her belief system?
Yes.
So when you two were serving in your church together, did she believe in multiple lives or multiple creations?
Not to my knowledge.
Did she mention that in February of 2019?
Yes.
And did you ask her why she was changing her belief system?
I don't know that I specifically asked her that question, but it was my understanding that her belief system had changed because of this group that she had recently become a part of.
Okay. And so previously, when she lived in Hawaii with you in 2016-17, she didn't have any what would call out of the norm beliefs about Jesus.
Not from my observation, no.
And then in February of 2019, you noticed that her beliefs about Jesus had changed.
They started to change a little bit prior to that. There was a visit before that 2019 visit in July of 2018, and that's the first time, but that was after she had moved to Arizona. But that was the first time. And then the visit in 2019, the beliefs were more amplified than before.
Okay. So in July of 2018, where did you two visit?
At Quiet Beach Resort.
Okay, so that was also in Hawaii.
Yes, sir.
And in 2018 or 2019, did she start to talk about multiple lives, being someone else in a previous life?
Yes.
And did you believe in that?
No.
And did the church that you two attended together, is that what they taught?
No.
Did she...
So not only is he showing the jury that there was a progression in Lori, there was a change, and then a progression in Lori's belief system after she met Chad Daybell. So here we have the blame shift back to Chad. We've had it going from Alex to Chad, Alex to Chad.
What they taught?
No.
Did she, in July of 18 or February of 19, did she start to talk about zombies?
Not in 2018, but in 2019.
Okay. And is that something that you two had previously talked about in Hawaii in 2016?
No.
So that was something new as well.
Yes.
How about casting out evil spirits? Did Lori have that new belief that she had some power to do that?
Not that she shared with me.
Okay. In July of 18 or February of 19, did you talk about castings?
No.
Okay.
So Lori kept this stuff from her normal friend.
A light and dark scales.
Ooh,
did you ever hear that? Or did she talk to you about that?
Yes.
And when was that?
In 2019 at my home.
Okay. And did you think that was unusual?
Yes.
Certainly something that you two had never talked about when you lived in Hawaii previously in 2016.
That's correct.
Did she tell you in 2019 that she was a goddess? And what was your reaction to that?
Goddess.
I just tried to not react and just listen to her.
You mentioned that she said she was a leader of the 144,000. That happened in the February of 2019?
Yes, sir.
And had she ever mentioned that in 2016?
Not in 2016, but in 2018.
And did you ask her where she was starting or why she was starting to change her beliefs?
Yes, and it was that she had had some experiences in the LDS temple that had changed her view of herself and her life. And then she had found these, like, a group of like-minded individuals who had also had those same experiences.
And did you, when she was telling you that, did you believe it?
No.
And did you tell her that?
Yes.
And what was her response to you?
I don't think she was upset. I think my impression was she just thought I wasn't ready to hear it, maybe.
Okay. Did she talk to you about setting up a new church called the Church of the Firstborn?
No.
When you two, you say you served together in a branch in Hawaii. Is that in 2016, 2017?
Yes.
And what organization was that?
It's called the Primary.
And the Primary is for children?
Children 12 and under.
And so, what did you and Lori spend time in Primary teaching children?
So you would teach from scriptures. She has a strong background in music, so she
does?
Did a lot of music time with the children. We planned activities for during the week, holiday parties. We usually had one activity a week, and then the services on Sunday that we would plan and participate in.
Sounds like normal Sunday school.
And so for these activities and for the lessons for these children under the age of 12, were they taught about Jesus?
Yes.
And were they taught that Jesus was good?
Yes.
Were these children taught that Jesus healed sick people?
Yes.
Were they taught that Jesus cast out evil spirits?
Jesus?
Perhaps.
What?
But I don't recall specifically.
Okay. But just simple lessons about the love of God and how we need to be good people.
Yes.
That was the subject of the lessons in 2016.
Yes.
And so, with your friend, 3 years later, you'd noticed that her focus wasn't on that anymore; it was on other things.
Yes.
I want to know about the money they sent to Colby, too.
Did you know Melanie Gibb before she came and joined you that one time in Hawaii?
No. That was the first time I met her.
And was she...
Weird? Yes.
In her belief system, she was similar to Lori?
Yes.
From the statements that Melanie and Lori were telling you about their new beliefs, were Melanie and Lori on the same page with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course they were.
And they asked you to join?
I think it was kind of like a subtle grooming is how I would describe it. Just kind of testing the water to see my reaction. But I could feel that the ultimate
said she was being
goal
groomed.
was to include me.
Okay.
And this lady
and your
was like,
response
hell,
was,
nah.
no thanks.
Not interested.
Good for you, April.
Thank you very much.
There were certain things that I knew already. First being that when we addressed Chad Daybell, she referred to Chad as her brother's friend.
Okay, this is another police officer regarding Lori. So Lori lied to the cops and said Chad Daybell was her brother's friend. But they already knew that she married him and they saw him at Hobby Lobby holding hands. She wasn't fooling anyone at that point, but this is the testimony about that.
Together in the parking lot of Hobby Lobby. Number two, at this time, we also knew that they had previously been married.
Did anything about any concerns about somebody in the apartment?
So she had stated that Alex, her brother, Alex, was in the apartment. A lot of my attention at that time, if you were to notice the stairwell to my right, I had concern because of what had previously been told to me by other officers about officer safety.
And I'll object, Your Honor, to hearsay.
I'll overrule that.
Okay. What was your concern for officer safety?
Alex Cox?
As mentioned in the video, Officer Hermosillo and Hope had contacted Chad and Alex outside. They were concerned with the answers that were given to them.
I'll object, Your Honor, to hearsay.
If I can connect, the next question is, what was it about you that led you to be, that led you to be concerned for officer safety in the apartment that we saw in the video?
And the only way he can answer that is by referring to what others told him. That's my objection.
All right, there's an objection based on hearsay or that it would elicit hearsay. What's your response to that, Ms. Smith?
Your Honor, in this instance, the statements go to this witness's state of mind. It also explains some of his observations inside.
engage in this conversation. But my attention was drawn because at the top of the stairs, I could see movement, whether there was a window or a light that was reflecting, and I could see movement as it moved back and forth off the reflection of a wall. And at that time, I was concerned for safety if someone was to come down and try and surprise us.
And so at the end of the conversation, there was something about follow-up that was going to be done? When you left Lori Vallow's apartment that day at that first visit, what information, where is law enforcement going to act on?
So she expressed when we talked to her that she had given the information by phone to one of my coworkers to how to contact her friend Melanie Gibb, who she claimed JJ was with, and work out some kind of a welfare check so we could check on the safety of the child.
Okay. And so at that point, that's when you and Lieutenant Ball, and who else was in that video from the law enforcement end?
Ball and Stubbs.
That would have been Officer Kellen Wetton.
Okay.
Wetton?
So that's when you, Officer Wetton, and Lieutenant Ball left under.
We have Stubbs, Ball, and Wetton. And then we have Wood, Cox, and Woodcock. Kidding me right now?
So we'll try to shorten this one up if we can somewhat, but it does take time to get all of our jurors situated and comfortable to return. So we'll come back in just hopefully 15 minutes or so.
All right, please.
Whoa. Let me see, is that all?
Video after this.
And that concludes, that is my breakdown of last week's testimony. That is what I took away. Roly-poly, banjo lady. That's what I took away from last week's testimony. I'm really, really looking forward to this week's, and I will break it down for you guys at the end of the week again. We'll do this again because I'm not going to pull everything. If you want to hear it in its entirety, you can go to East Idaho News or Scott Reich, and they have all of it, hours and hours and hours. But this is what I took away. David is a liar, and they're pointing the finger hard at Alex and Chad's chin. So thank you for joining, and we all know that David's
because you're a liar.
He's a big liar. And we know that Chad's chin is being blamed for a lot.
I have a hard time hearing you. Do you mind pulling your microphone down and then aiming it up at your chin?
All right, you guys, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I love you all. I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 10:45 a.m. for the continuation of the Letitia Stock Stinky trial. Have a great Sunday, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. 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 You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to friends, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time for that. Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool, sipping on Coke and Jack. Calling my phone when you feel alone, but I'll never call you back. 'Cause I ain't got time for that. I don't give a damn. I don't your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much.